It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is August 11th. It is a Monday, TGIM, and this is the B Block, the Bravo Block, which means it's time for Brad's Top 3. John, how does that sound again?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
I screwed up. I got the wrong page up. Hold on. John, how does that sound again?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It is. And we start off with...
It's number 3.
I don't know if you saw this story, John, talking about taxpayer dollars. The border wall. Have you heard about this crazy story with the materials for the border wall? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, no. Is there some sort of grift or graft going on?
Well, you know, Trump had them building the border wall, and the border wall was not complete when he left office. And Joe Biden comes in, and after a year or two, Joe Biden decides, well, he came from the get-go. He says, we're not going to finish that border wall. Matter of fact, I think at one point in time he was talking about taking down part of the wall they just built. But there was all this metal, all these construction products, steel, grid work, you know, all the slats for the border wall and stuff like that were sitting in storage, and they auctioned it off. Remember the story? Are you there, John?
Yeah, I do remember this, Brad.
Okay. At one point in time, and I read this over the weekend, they were selling these large, and the way that worked, it was done in panels. They put up like these steel poles. They, dug holes and poured concrete and put these steel poles up. And then they put these panels, and these panels were 33 feet tall and 9 feet wide. Okay. And each panel weighed, I don't know, a couple tons, 2-3 tons. At one point in time, they were being sold 3 for $1. John, do you have any idea what each one of these probably cost the taxpayers?
Oh, hundreds of dollars for sure.
Oh, more like thousands of dollars. Okay,
yeah, more like. So what's the rationale behind like? Did somebody get a quote unquote good deal on this? Like, was there somebody playing favorites?
Well, the crazy story about this was, and once again, I'm going like, I don't understand this. The rationale that the Biden White House said was that it's costing us money because we have to guard these construction products, all these parts of the wall, which were not built. They were laying like at various points. And this is not like in one area. They were like at various depots along the border. It was costing the government $130,000 a day to guard these products. Okay.
Oh, come on. Get out of here.
I swear that's what they said. They said, and that was the rationale. We're spending $130,000 a day. What do you have to, first off, these panels weighed tons. And in order for somebody to steal them, it's not like you and a couple of your buddies could go, hey, let's go steal some of those wall panels.
In a pickup truck,
right?
Yeah.
There's no way that's going to happen. So it's not something that's going to happen readily. And not only that, the scrappers aren't necessarily interested in steel. Because steel has a value, but it just doesn't, have the value of copper.
Yeah, it's not like copper.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
exactly.
aluminum even.
Okay, so the story was that, and it's interesting because I sort of kept up on this, that nobody knew what happened. At one point in time, GovPlanet, are you familiar with GovPlanet.com?
I am not.
GovPlanet.com is a division of the Ritchie Brothers. Do you know who the Ritchie Brothers are? I don't. The Ritchie Brothers is a big, I think they're actually from Canada. They used to have a location here in the St. Louis area, is over in Collinsville, right there, 159 and 64. It's a huge auction company. And typically what they do is they auction off lots of construction equipment, what they call a yellow iron, okay, and bulldozers and stuff like that. But they do all sorts of industrial stuff. GovPlanet is a division of their company which essentially specializes in helping government agencies sell off old equipment, surplus equipment. So
okay, yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like the type of website you would like, Brad.
I've believe it or not, I bought stuff on GovPlanet.
I believe you have. Man. Go ahead, I interrupted.
Okay, so long story made short, this sort of got swept under the rug, and nobody knew what happened with this stuff. And at one point in time, the stuff was listed on GovPlanet.com, and essentially then the listing went down. Long story made short, late last week, and this came out over the weekend, the Trump administration has made an agreement with Government Planet, govplanet.com, which still has most of this stuff. GovPlanet is going to give it back to the Trump administration.
Oh, very nice. Now, can you imagine any other president working out a deal like that?
Well, see, that's exactly what I thought. I mean, to the point where it's like, I'm thinking to myself, if I were on the receiving end, let's say if I run govplanet.com, I was one of the Ritchie brothers. I don't know if the Ritchie brothers are still around, but that's who started it. If I was one of those executives and I got a call from the White House saying, hey, you know all this stuff that Biden listed with you, do you still have it? Well, we've got quite a bit of it. We want it back. Wouldn't you sort of say, I think it would be in the best interest of our country to work with them? Wouldn't you think that, John?
Absolutely. And if they're smart, which I'm sure they are, they would take the name of a few people in the administration who could give them a favor a little bit down the road. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. So supposedly, now some of the stuff has actually been sold to other companies and has been torn up and recycled, or maybe they made it into something. Who knows what they made it in? Some of the stuff could be used for other things. The panels, if you see those panels were expressly built for the border wall, which has the slats in them. Those would be hard to reuse. I guess maybe somebody could use them, put up their own little border wall around their house or something like that. But the bottom line is, the panels and the equipment is going back to the border. Some of it has been removed from the border, and they're going to be putting it back up. And you know what they said at one point in time? I found this interesting. At one point in time, when they were working on this under the Trump version 1.0, they were doing a half mile a day. Think about that, John.
That's a lot, Brad. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot to walk, but that's a ton to erect, pardon the expression.
Yes. I mean, I heard that. I thought to myself, man, that's like 2,700 feet per day where they're drilling holes, putting poles in, pouring concrete. They got the guys welding the panels on there. I'm thinking to myself, I go by construction sites. There's sites around the St. Louis area, thinking to myself, those guys must be getting paid by the hour, or maybe they work. Maybe they don't. Maybe they've got the deal where Billy Long calls them and say, "Hey, not only can you take off 70 minutes early on Friday, you can take off Wednesday, Thursday, and Tuesday as well. Just don't show up to work."
And you can use your 70-minute break in increments every day throughout the week.
Right. Okay. It's time for number 2.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
It is my number 2.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
Is this in your top list today? The St. Louis teachers voting, they are not happy with their superintendent. Have you seen this story?
No, it doesn't have to do with state politics, so it's not on my website. I didn't see that they voted today, Brad.
Well, I don't know if they're going to vote today. There's a vote of confidence. The St. Louis Teachers Association is, I don't know if they're going to have it, if they've already had it, or they're scheduling it. They want to vote a no confidence vote against, what's her name, Bourasche? Is that her name? Dr. Bourasche?
Yeah, Millicent Bourasche.
Millicent Bourasche. John, why do you think this would be happening? What do you think about this?
Well, I don't know. Historically, you would think, and when you say the Teachers Association, do you mean the Teachers Union?
I guess that's what it was.
Yeah, I guess so. I would think that the Teachers Union would support as much grift and graft and shady Millicent Bourasche spending as they could imagine. It surprises me that they would oppose this administration.
Well, here, let me look at, I think I captured the thing like you said. Is it there? Is it there? Maybe I didn't. Okay, I don't have a link to the story here, but I thought that was interesting because of the fact that, see, once again, the city schools, what a mess. What a mess. I mean, that's an understatement, Brad. And let me interrupt very quickly. Folks can go to johncombest.com today, and a Post-Dispatch editorial criticizes both the St. Louis public school system and the Francis Howell District for their shenanigans that we've discussed. Brad, we discussed this multiple times last week. The payout to the Francis Howell superintendent, and then 3 days later, after depositing a $229,000 check, he goes to Oklahoma and gets a brand new job, and so he'll get 2 salaries. So I'm sorry for interrupting, Brad, but the Post-Dispatch lays out the case against the city school district and Francis Howell today. John, it's interesting you mention that because you know why? Why is that?
And now, Big Finish, Brad's number.
Ow. That is my number 1. The Bailey Francis Howell investigation. Do you know that our full-time 97.1 and part-time Attorney General Andrew Bailey is now investigating the Francis Howell School District? Did you know this?
Yeah. So it's been on my website for the last week, and I apologize for screaming a moment ago. It looks like I just woke up my kids for screaming. That I didn't know that was going to play on my headphones. Yeah, Brad, it's been on my website for the last week.
Well, see, over the weekend, various places I had two people that knew that I put my four kids through the Francis Howell School District. And the one person said to me, wasn't Francis Howell a really good school district at one point in time? And it sort of struck me as like, okay, here we go with the power of negative publicity. And I say this once again, these goofballs on the Board of Education, how in the world did this happen? How in the world did this happen where you have a guy, they hired him in March of this year, and then he was supposed to start in July 1st. Remember the news stories, you probably maybe had this, you probably saw this in all the things you do. The story hit around mid-July last month. He hasn't showed up for work yet. Where's the new superintendent? You know what I'm talking about, the stories?
Yeah, we talked about it on the air, Brad.
Right. So he doesn't show up. And then all of a sudden they announce, well, he's not going to be our new superintendent, and we're going to pay him $280,000 to go away. Where was it? Wasn't that the
$229, I believe.
$229. Okay. Then we have that wonderful woman, Jane Pushkar, who essentially on her own decides to hire one of her buddies to go through the Francis Howell Library and come up with a list of books that he feels are not appropriate. I'll say it again. This is stupid, ridiculous. Every time, and John, I know you always make fun of me for being redundant. Why is it that every time I hear a conservative person who's running for school board saying, we're going to make sure all the terrible books are out of the library, nobody cares about the education. Nobody cares about what these kids are learning. Nobody cares about the fact that years ago they got rid of all the shop classes and classes that could be teaching guys and gals how to fix cars, how to fix air conditioning systems, how to do electrical wiring and things like that. No, we can't have that. We have to grind everybody out and then throw them out and say, now go to college and get a 4-year degree and pay $200,000 for a student loan. And after 4 years, maybe you'll get a job, maybe you won't. But going back to this whole crazy thing is, I don't understand what's going on with these school boards. How and the other person that said, okay, explain to me why they would pay the guy when he never showed up. And I go, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. Does it make any sense to you, John?
Yeah, it looks like he arranged a deal. Excuse me. If you read the Post-Dispatch editorial that I have up today, it looks like he made a deal as part of his separation that the board could not comment on why he departed.
And if it's our taxpayer money, why can't we find out? Why is that? What's the deal on that? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, why should that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that he and his lawyer went to them and said, as part of the condition, nobody can speak about this. And I think the district has the right to make that. And, Brad, with personnel things, I think it's pretty common for the district not to be able to comment on why the person left.
Okay, John, if I were on the school board, let's say him and his attorney approached us and said, hey, I changed my mind. I want to do this job. I would say, did you sign this contract? And he would say, yes. Okay, you have two choices. You either show up for work or we sue you. And we sue you for the value of this contract. So do you want to show up to work or do you want to see us in court? Get what I'm saying, John?
I do. And everybody knows the reason you wouldn't get elected to any school board is because you would focus on radio ads instead of yard signs.
No, I wouldn't.
And everybody knows. And Brad, please give me a heads up before you play any audio in my headphone with this song. But everybody knows, thanks to a song that they've heard on this very show, that yard signs suck.
John,
they pollute the landscape, or whatever the next lyric is.
I thought about this over the weekend, and I don't think he'd probably agree with it. But I want to reach out to Bernie Dubray and see if I can get him on the radio and ask him.
Yeah, that would be great, Brad. Why wouldn't you?
Well, because of the fact that I don't think he wants to probably get involved with the controversy. But Bernie Dubray was the long time, I think 30 years, the superintendent for the Fort Zumwalt schools. And under Bernie Dubray, they went from, I think, 1 high school to 4. I think that was under his tenure. And there aren't too many people saying bad things about the Fort Zumwalt school district. Matter of fact, I know a couple people that have. Matter of fact, I know quite a few people that had their kids go through Fort Zumwalt who really enjoyed it, thought it was a great experience. Their kids learned a lot. They, the crap was kept to a minimum. There's always crap going on at schools and stuff like that. And since Bernie has left, I think they're on their 3rd superintendent. The Francis Howell district in the last 5 years, wasn't this guy like the 3rd or 4th superintendent? Wasn't that the deal?
Yeah, I think probably the 3rd.
Okay, and then you have the situation in Wentzville over the past 5 years. I think they've had 4 superintendents. Wouldn't that sound about right, John?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but your point's well taken, Brad, that there's been a lot of turnover there.
Right, and the situation with the city of St. Louis schools in the last 4 years, we're on our 3rd superintendent. Isn't that the deal? We had the first woman from Seattle. Now we've got the second woman from Seattle. At some point in time, when does it become about the kids and not about these, I call them, egotistical superintendents? I mean, do they get to the point where they think they're like the king or something like that? Like, remember?
No, I think it's just reflective, Brad, of something that you and I have discussed for a long time. It's not 1970, and people don't go to work for good old McDonnell Douglas and stay there for 40 years. So if you're a talented administrator and you can make $229 if you could make $270 at Francis Howell for a few years, you have pretty good results. Nobody's super mad at you. And then a district somewhere else says, okay, we'll give you $310 to come here. You leave. Like, it's the real world. It's the free market economy. We're not living in 1970s where old-timey people stayed at one job forever and stayed stagnant. Like, people are going to take the best opportunity to make more money and help their family.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that.
No, that's not about. I don't know why you would. That's not an attack on you, Brad. I'm just saying there's people that have the mentality. If you get a job, you stay there, and you're miserable, and it sucks, and it's not going to be terrible. But you know what? You signed a contract to work there. No, get the best opportunity you can and leave.
I can't remember.
And also, how many parents, Brad? The difference is how many people in the Francis Howell School District are one generation away from North County? A whole lot of people. So people don't take offense to people taking a new job for better money and just leaving. People don't expect their superintendent, well, I grew up just down the road. Did you know why it's called Boonslick? We don't care, Grandpa. We just want a decent administrator. And you know what? If he leaves in 3 years, we'll find a new one.
Okay, but see, that's the problem. And they don't. None of them stay for 3 years. And
what's wrong with having some fresh thinking, Brad? Come in every few years and have somebody with some fresh thinking, and the school district can adapt.
John, John's going to argue with me on this. There are companies that have had stable leadership for a long time that do quite well. I mean, Jamie Dimon, let me throw that name out.
That's a great example, Brad.
I mean, and he has done tremendous things in the banking industry, okay?
Yeah, but did he ever go out to the tarmac on Thanksgiving and pose for a few pictures, Brad? Did he ever go to a bank teller spot right before close when Billy Long said he could go home and cash a check?
But see, the interesting thing about that is, look at our current president, okay? Our current president rolls up his sleeves and digs in and dives into the masses, okay?
He does, and he plays golf, Brad, with more frequency, I just read, than any other president. You don't like that, do you?
I do not like that. I'll be honest with you.
I know. I'm just being cantankerous.
I have a problem with that. Brad. But you mentioned my beloved Herb Kelleher. You were making fun of him. So, John, a pox on you. It's funny. I looked at there was a trip I was considering making, and I looked at my Southwest Airlines app, which is messed up because it no longer recognizes me. Anyway, I looked at a trip that 4 or 5 years ago I could have done for probably about $149 round trip, and now it would cost me about $800. I'm going like, okay, at that point, I just drive. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's because your son said, look, he went to Southwest and said, what could we get to have Brad not fly into Pensacola?
How did you know that? Okay, John. We have to take a break as John totally blows me up. But I got more stuff to talk about. Man, I got a bunch of things this morning. Are you ready for that, John?
I can't wait, Brad.
Okay.